30th November 2021, 39 years of reign of President Paul Biya, second president of the Republic of Cameroon after Amadou Ahidjo, and a lot of things have happened within the past close to 4 decades. A lot of things have changed in the Republic of Cameroon, in the socio-economic, political, and security life of the nation. And we're going to be looking at all these in this edition of the Inside Media. August in some few seconds. Our guests today are two political figures in the Republic of Cameroon. First, Professor Elvis Ngole, political scientist and member of the Central Committee of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, coordinator of the CPDM Academy, the party's School of Politics, and a former member of the Cameroon government. Professor, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. It's a great pleasure to share this prestigious plateau with you, and I seize the opportunity to salute your millions of televiewers and, of course, your magnificent Equinoxe team. And at the same time, I take the opportunity to salute my co-panelists whom you have not yet introduced, Mr. Dennis Jang. We think that we're all together trying to build and construct a better Cameroon from our diverse viewpoints. What matters is that we do our politics in such a way as to build a better Cameroon. I'm one of those who believe in the Aristotelian school of politics, which is politics to serve others. I don't believe in the Machiavellian school of politics, which is politics for politics' sake, politics for power's sake. And because I'm an Aristotelian in my political approach, I'm very happy always to be with others with whom I share same platforms. And even though there's diversity of opinion, we always end up understanding and enriching each other, and I'm always happy that we have contributed to building a better Cameroon.
Doing politics not to kill, not to destroy, exactly, but to build. And that's why in the later part of the program we'll be looking at how to build a better Cameroon for today and tomorrow. Jean Denis Tabe is an entrepreneur, national president of the Popular Action Party, the PAP. Mr. President, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila. Greetings to all millions of viewers of Equinoxe. Greetings to a wonderful team here. I want to also use the opportunity to greet Professor Elvis Ngole, my co-panelist. It's been a great joy for me to be here. This is our home. We are very proud of what you have been doing, and I will never hesitate at any given point to always make myself available if it has to do with seeing how I could contribute in the evolution of our prestigious country, Cameroon. So I like what Professor Elvis Ngole earlier said. This is not my first time that we are sharing the same platforms. We have had several platforms on different media organs, and we at the end of the day, politics is not war. Politics is just something that you bring in to see how you could chip in your own little contribution to see how we can foster the evolution of our country. Like we said, we are here, unity in diversity. We have our own divergences in different way of looking at things. But at the end, our priority is that let each and every Cameroonian be comfortable and let the nation Cameroon move ahead for posterity.
And to achieve that, to move Cameroon ahead for posterity, we have to look backward to see what happened yesterday. We look at what is happening today, and then we project into the future. Professor Elvis Ngole, 39 years ago, the first president, Amadou Ahidjo, decided to step down. He resigned and handed over to his constitutional successor, President Paul Biya. How did you leave that transition?
Yes, at that time, 39 years ago, I was a young doctoral student doing my PhD at the American university called University of Denver in Colorado, the United States of America. And when it happened, the transition took place. As a Cameroonian who had lived long in the United States as a young man, had been there already more than 10 years, I was very amazed and very attracted to the initial discourse. The discourse was very attractive. discourse of a new Cameroon, or a Cameroon of a new deal for, in other words, a new Cameroon built on policy pillars of rigor, moralization, liberalization, democratization, modernization. You know, up to that point, Africa was not used to that type of political discourse from political leaders. And that coming, it was like a new blood, new air, fresh air. And so I was one of those who was so attracted that I couldn't wait to come back to Cameroon and make my contribution, because before then we knew of an Africa that was described by the likes of Jean-Francois Bayard, a French writer on l'État au Cameroun, and people like Mongo Betty. But when we heard that there was a transition to a new leader who had the discourse that openness, freedom, rigor, moralization, democratization, modernization, democratization, I just thought, wow, there's a new Cameroon. And as soon as I got my PhD and I finished, I came back to Cameroon, and we have been contributing, knowing very well that we are working on a political vision and political philosophy that has been set by the new leader, and which is attractive. And that political vision, 39 years, is still there. We've gone through ups and downs. I think it's globally positive, but we know we have challenges. And the fact is, we are faithfuls. We believe in that political philosophy, and those who are not faithful to it, obviously will have problems with it and will do otherwise. But I'm one of those who believes that a society that is constructed on policy pillars of morals, of rigor, of liberty, of liberalism, you know, of democratization, of modernity, that society can go forward. But as long as everybody believes in that, is good. If some people don't, and some people begin to behave otherwise, of course, it creates problems. And some of the problems we've got in the last 39 years are based on the fact that not all Cameroonians are looking in the same direction. Right. Some of them seem to have a different understanding or a different interpretation of this New Deal. And that's why we are.
And the values brought about by the current president.
Exactly.
President Jean Denis, as young as you were 39 years ago, did you see that transition from President Amadou Ahidjo to President Paul Biya? Did you see a need, a new Cameroon in the pipeline? There was generally some uncertainty and anxiety, but as a young person at that time, did you see a new Cameroon coming out of that transition?
Like earlier said, I was relatively young by then. I never had a lot of experience during the reign of President Ahidjo, but I've used a lot of time to really study President Ahidjo, the former president, and as far as the present president, President Biya is concerned, I can really tell you vividly because I'm a living witness under his regime. Before becoming President Paul Biya, the present President Paul Biya has been a Prime Minister since 1975, meaning that if we want to add, because when you are a Prime Minister, you are the head of government, meaning that there are many policies that are directly or indirectly under you that you still implemented, that you have been implementing. So if we take 1975 to now, I think you are getting to almost close to 50 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it is a total disillusion on my part. I feel so disappointed and I feel so perplexed. Cameroon is one of those countries that, as I have ever taken a vivid analysis on the nation Cameroon, is one of those blessed countries, but unfortunately has never been opportune to be managed by the founding fathers. Like I said, those who had the vision for the country. During independence, the Nobels, the Ernest Wandis, the Momiers, those who actually fought and had a roadmap on how Cameroon, the nation Cameroon, was to be built. Unfortunately, they were all kept aside, they were assassinated, used by the so-called present leaders today to eliminate some of those people. So those who came, I term them opportunists, like Ahidjo, and the Bida who were the opportunists because they were handpicked. The French constitution by then called the Loi Card into elect Al-Alcam was a constitution where when you have a majority that comes from the you have a majority in the parliament, the High Commissioner handpicked you and puts you as a leader. So when you are like your authority is being determined by someone else, it paralyzes even you to carry out an action. And the present president, President Paul Biya, is in that line, because after Ahijo, the constitution, the what we call a constitutional successor, he only succeeded, inherited something that he himself never had any roadmap towards towards that area or towards the nation.
But the constitution is an emanation of the people's will.
No, it was not the people's will. The constitution, Cameroon has never had an independent constitution without being manipulated somewhere. I'm still coming on the 39 years after the 13. Or let me see, during that period of the transition, that was to us during that period. It was like you taking over the leadership of a country, being dictated upon, and the roadmap given to you was being teleguided out of the country by foreigners. And when you take over that area, that's why today, after that 39 years, I can still call it 50 because of time. Let me put it now when it was under his reign. After that 39 years that we are today, everything, we are into a chaos, total chaos. Cameroon is like 39 years backwards, not even 39 years forward. So if you look at almost all the sector, there is problem. There is division. So I want to come. We talk about, Professor Ngole talk about moralization, moral integrity. There was a book that he said there was moralization, integrity, rigor, and all the like. It is a total opposite of it. Where is the rigor? Moralization is totally a mess. We know that of the moral, Cameroon is one of the countries where moral decadence is at the marrow. When we talk about integrity and all the like. So it is like a man who was just inherited from somewhere, and something that you never had a plan or you never had any vision for that thing, and it was just given to you in a platter of gold. And that is why we today there's nothing we can write home about it.
And the question, Prof, is that what has happened? What has happened to the rigor and moralization, the New Deal that the President of the Republic came with these new ideas, new vision of the country, and these values of rigor and moralization? What has happened that today there seems to be an explosion of ills in the society? Drug consumption by young people, theft, insecurity, and of course abuse, sexual abuse on women, young girls, children, here and there, corruption almost at its peak.
First, I want to draw your attention to the fact that President Biya didn't just come in with a New Deal vision like that. He just, Mr. John Dennis just said, he was Prime Minister since 75, but total. He had been preparing himself and for this vision for more than 20 years. Because don't forget, he came into the picture after his brilliant studies from France in 1962. And in 1982, he was president. For 20 years, he had all the time with his education, which you know very well, prepared him to be able to come up with this vision. And it's a vision that he believes in, and that is he holds dear to. And you've just asked the question, what has happened? It's good for people to understand. To understand what has happened, people have to understand exactly what exactly are rigor and moralization. By rigor, it is meant consciousness, the consciousness for decency, for etiquette, for humanity, the humanities, for courtesy, for respect for the dignity of the person in the way you conduct yourself publicly and privately. That consciousness in you to be right, the consciousness of being correct, of correctedness, that's what is rigor. In the way you do things, if you have to do things, do it well. If you have to deal with somebody, deal with them very well. By rigor, by moralization, it is meant your respect for establish customs and norms and values and principles that society considers to be what's good, what is
acceptable.
Yeah, what is acceptable. And I thought this and that includes even religious values, which we all grew up with. So, meaning love, meaning affection, meaning consideration. And once you do that, if you are a civil servant, a public servant, you'll be a good one. If you're a business person, you'll be a good one. If you're a journalist, you'll be a good one. And society will benefit from your goodness. That is exactly the value and the place of rigor and moralization. But if you just said what has happened, there is a proliferation of bad behavior, drugs, and so forth. It is because, you know, when you observe the last 39 years, as I said, globally, the last 39 years have been positive in terms of achievements, in terms of where the society is going, because the society has opened up. Proof is that one of the proofs of things going well in Africa, in the New Deal Cameroon, is that unlike 39 years ago, the society has become so open and so liberal and liberalized that we're having a program like this. And we're having you, the great animator and moderator, talking to us and expecting us to, and we are expressing ourselves so freely, and we are not even showing that we are afraid of anything. And it shows our creativity, our genius. That is one of the fruits and the advantages and of the positive sides of the New Deal, that Cameroon has become so liberalized, so open and so free, that people are no more, and the president himself had once told people, you don't need to go into the marquee, you don't need to be in the bush in order to express yourself anymore. Speak what you have to say, make your own contribution, come up. For those who are making, who are engaged in deviant, incorrect behavior, such as corruption, drugs, and insulting people, or engaging on all kinds of social mischief, those are people who are going about their lives in a manner inconsistent with rigor and moralization, and it's in a manner inconsistent with the political vision. And of course, institutions have been created, men and women have been put in place, laws have been put in place within the framework of the New Deal, which will take care of this sort of people. And that is why today, when you say people are doing this, people are doing that, you should also say, because you are aware of it, that a lot of people who are doing bad things are also being prosecuted. A lot of people who are doing bad things are also being punished. Some are in jail, you just mentioned. A lot of people who are being punished, who are doing bad things, are finding that there are people who are speaking up and speaking out against their deviance, against their bad behavior. That is good. It's good for our society, because 39 years ago, you couldn't dare say there was corruption. 39 years ago, you didn't have any forum where you could question, is there corruption or not? 39 years ago, you couldn't dare. If you had to say it, you had to go into the marquee, or you had to go into the bush. Otherwise, you would be in Mantum, or in Cholere, or somewhere, or in BMM or something. But today, we are talking freely, and nobody is disturbed by that.
What explains the fact that despite the this progress that you are explaining, and of course the efforts of the government authorities, there is still some sort of, when you look at corruption, for example, it is rather growing.
Yes.
It is rather growing, and today Cameroon is ranked 149 out of 180 countries in the 2020 Transparency International Corruption Perception Index.
Yes, corruption is one of the challenges, major challenges of the New Deal, because corruption goes totally contrary to the spirit, the intents, and the purposes of the New Deal. And that is why I'm one of those who is glad that the president has given instructions, and he has put out policies and created institutions, and has reformed the justice system, and he has allowed journalists like you, media houses like you, to speak up and speak about it, so that we can put a stop to this this evil, or this vice. It's a vice, social vice, and it is against the law. As you know, there are laws against corruption, and so those who are still engaged in it, or those who think that they can benefit from it or they can thrive on it, I'm afraid that they are wrong, because Yes, the New Deal is 39 years old, but Cameroonians are conscious enough now. Cameroonians understand better now, and I think the institutions are also getting more and more reinforced to the extent that those who think that they can thrive on these social vices and these by breaking the laws and being corrupt or not respecting rigor and moralization will find out that the Cameroon that we want and that we're all working for will not include corruption.
Those
will not include deviance. Will not include. We want a Cameroon of correctness.
Despite all those
Cameroon,
institutions and all those efforts, President Jangdeni said, like many other politicians of the opposition and civil society leaders, right defenders, think that we are in a chaotic situation. What do you make of these efforts, these institutions that are created, and the people who have been arrested here and there in the attempt to curb or better still eradicate some of these ills, corruption, and even the efforts that have been made by the education authorities to put an end to some of the ills within the academic milieu, and so on? What do you make of all these efforts?
Yes, thank you very much.
Saying that they have been fruitless?
Yeah, like I said, when you take up something and it was given to you by a platter of gold, these are the consequences that we are experiencing. When there was no roadmap, nothing was done, there was no structured policy put in place to follow up whatever. Those are the aspect where we have what we are experiencing today. You are just touching some of those social issues, corruption. Maybe we'll touch tribalism, we'll touch nepotism, we are going to touch hate speech and all the like, because it is alarming. Division and all the like. And today we have another crisis that maybe we'll discuss that later. So, as I said, President Paul Biya, like what he's saying, never brought democracy as per se a person who wanted democracy. He never brought in democratic values. Those democratic freedom of speech and all what he's talking, those are policies that were imposed in the 80s. They were imposed on most leaders in Africa, provided those are some of the conditions that you needed to fulfill before we could have certain access to some international advantages or international institutions that could help rebuild your economy. So you were compelled to accept some democratic values, amongst which one was democracy, multipartyism, freedom of speech, and so on. So President Paul Biya had no choice than to accept, because some members of the CPDM even opted that no, nothing should change. But since everything was on his neck and he had no choice, because Cameroon at that moment needed some of those international institutions to come and survive the economy of the country, he had no choice than to accept some of those democratic values, even though he accepted that it was more on theory, because practically you were still like in a one-party system. Okay, coming back now to taking us to this aspect, taking us back to this aspect of corruption. President Biya is corruption. He has never he has never carried out any measure to fight corruption. Corruption is one of the key factors that he has used to maintain his stay in power for close to 39 years today. Why? This is
what about
our constitution. Our constitution.
What about
our constitution provides that there is declaration of assets. If President Biya wanted to genuinely fight corruption, what is delaying President Biya to implement that Article 66 of the Constitution? He has touched everywhere in the Constitution that will protect his stay in power. But the one that he knows he will use as a tool to fight and to maintain his grip, Article 66 says declaration of assets. What is difficult that you take office, you declare? Checks and balances can be done by even an ordinary person. But unfortunately, he has blocked that article till date. It is not being implemented. Talking about putting in place institutions. Those are institutions that are there to protect his power, to serve the whims and caprices of President Biya himself. When we talk of
sending ministers,
sending those ministers, that's why I'm still coming. The corrupt practices or corrupt nature of those ministers, when I say it is a weapon that he uses, those people that today we tag them, they have embezzled. Yes, they have embezzled. Okay, let me tell you how it functions. You put in people, some of them were directors, others had positions that were they managed. You hear of people like Marafa. Marafa's embezzlement charges was when he was a secretary general at the presidency. But during that period, I asked myself if President Biya was that serious. He embezzled as Secretary General, and later on, he was promoted to serve as the Minister of State in charge of territorial administration and decentralization for close to 10 years. When he was removed from that position, later on he was arrested, and they said no, when you were. So I asked, when you were that Secretary General, Abba was arrested. And his charges was when he was the director of taxes. So when he was director, does it mean during that period of director of taxes, throughout he was let loose until when he became a minister and you promoted him? It means that you deliberately know people were corrupt, they have embezzled billions of francs CFA, but you deliberately decided to promote them, and of which their files were there. So when I say it is a mode of him being in power, it's a way like, because most dictators have the conception that most of their challengers, those who have ever challenged them, have been their former collaborators. So he used that very well. He knows the mechanism very well. Today, when you hear of how do we call this other? There's one man called Fonjindam. Fonjindam, former director of Chanchen Naval. I think from every indication, the man is free. From every indication, but everybody still asks the question, what is Fonjindam still doing there? So, if truly President Biya wanted to be fighting corruption, he will not be sending people to prison. They will be trying to regain back that money. But, okay, people have been going to prison. The corruption have been reformed. The corruption has the alarming rate of corruption is rather skyrocketing. So, today that we speak, we have ministers whose case files are still, so many media houses have exposed their manner in which they are corrupt. Today we have why was there no the Nations Cup? Cameroon was to host Nations Cup, I think in 2018. President Biya himself assured Cameroonians that no, everything will be okay. Only for him to come back and say no, there has been a glissement like that. So what's the money? Everything just went like that. Opposition leaders went on street and said no, you cannot just waste taxpayers' money like that we are building stadiums at the end, so it ended up in people's pocket. Those people who were in charge of all those structures and all that, they are still in office, because provided they are there to sing praises to the king himself. We have a minister who took up a contract of distributing laptops to, they call presidential plan on laptops. People carried out an investigation on those laptops. And what he gave as official figures, that each of those laptops cost 150,000 francs. But after investigation, those were just what we call the notes. I don't know, they say those are little issues that you can go to the market and the real cost of those. But they are still in the office. They are still in offices. Edgar Allen Mebengo today, who is in jail, he was minister of state minister
delegate at the presidency in charge of defense.
It was, newspapers, all the media houses talked about the corruption charges of Mebengo. He was rather promoted
we live in a state of law.
Minister of Transport. So when we manifest such act of how do we call it? Such act of laissez-faire, people should do what they want, and later on you come and you catch them and say you are fighting corruption and selective way of doing things. To me, everything that Mr. Biya is in the name of fighting corruption, to me everything is a sham, because I see it more in the perspective of a corruption is the password that the regime of Biya has always used to maintain his stay in power. And that is why today, let me conclude, that's why today, if you can see people like Professor Ngole speaking freely and talking without any issue, it's because he has decided, and speaking and defending the king to the fullest, the King Biya, because I call him a king, is because he knows that if he says
in the republic there's no king.
He's the president.
He probably has some skeletons in his stomach, and he's afraid if he knows what befores him, if he dares say anything against him. So to me, I believe that there is no reason, because
we are free.
We have won several trophies of corruption. So to me, that is the highest area that the New Deal under President Biya has really filled.
What I want people to know is that we live in a rule of law, and people must believe in the rule of law. In a rule of law, justice has a place. And justice is not the justice of a political leader or justice of a party. No. Justice is guaranteed by a state which, as we know, the state of Cameroon, as I said earlier, is a republic. That means it is the people's state. The state belongs to the people. It is everybody's thing. That is why we call it the republic. And in that republic, the constitution and the laws are the established rules and institutions that guide us, that regulate us, and we have opted for a rule of law as our mode of regulating society. And everyone who believes in the rule of law must know that justice will always take its course, and you must allow justice to take its course. You may know what you know, the journalists may know what they know, the public might say what they want to say, but the rule of law does not work like that. The rule of law says that if there's anything, if there's any file or case files or whatever, those who, as a matter of law and constitution, are charged with the responsibility of managing the justice system will do their work in all good conscience. And one of those who believes in the justice system, I believe that we have good judges, we have good lawyers, we have good magistrates, and I think that they are doing their best to make sure that they dispense the law according to their conscience and according to their professional training. I have no doubt about that.
But Prof, that length of time that is taken to do investigation, and then within that time, the Secretary General at the presidency leaves from that position to a Minister of State, and then he stays there for a number of years again, 10 years and so on. That length of time, is it not a hindrance to that policy of rigor and moralization of the President of the Republic?
Yes, from the standpoint of perception, public perception, it's very normal that the public will perceive that way, that why so long? Why not do it right away, as he was just saying. But at the end of the day, justice has been done. And what is done, it is sin. But you know, when there's time lapse, the tendency is that it creates a perception problem, or sometimes even a misperception problem. Yeah, because people think that because of the time lapse, nothing is happening, or that there is some complicity. But the bottom line is, the fact remains, it has been done. Unless one will say it has not been done, because we know what the fact is. The fact is, these very names that he has cited, justice has been done.
Yeah, the issue is
by those who are supposed to dispense justice.
The lawyers will say justice delayed is justice denied.
Yeah, for the lawyers, they're right, because that's in their, shall we say, in their culture, in their jargon. They have a right to say so, but you know, the way justice functions, the lawyer has his own perspective, the judge has his own perspective, probably even the defender or the accused have their own perspective. But at the end of the day, justice is what? Justice is the judge, the lawyer, the defender, the accused, and a public which is judging. So, but that justice is guaranteed by none other than the state. And that state is what? That state is a republic. That means in that state, it is all of us, it is you and I, who at the end of the day have to say this is good or this is not good. And that is why in a republic there are no kings. In a republic, at a certain point, the people must be held into account to go vote and choose who will be their leaders. And that's the difference between a republic and a monarchy.
So for 39 years, how much of that policy of rigor and moralization has been implemented? For what result?
Globally, as I said, globally,
that aspect?
Yes, globally speaking, it has been a positive record. It has been a positive record, and those who doubt it, all they have to do is a simple example. Just look at us here. The policy of rigor, of moralization, of liberalization is working, or the New Deal is working, because Cameroon is a changed Cameroon. Yes, in that change, some are doing it badly, some are doing it well, but we all recognize the change, and sometimes we refuse to even acknowledge that there's change. Proof is, we are here, we are talking, we are criticizing, you are questioning, and everybody is free to say and play their role, because that's exactly what the New Deal wants. Institutions have been created to take care of all our deviances, our lapses, our insufficiencies, our inefficiencies, our imperfections. And these institutions are working. Laws have been created. We see all these laws. People have been punished. People are being identified. And this is making the society now more conscious. It's making everybody stand up that you must be correct. You must not do mischief. So that consciousness is already there, which was not there. And look, people are not afraid anymore in Cameroon. And people's minds and their people's consciences, they feel freer. Sure, some people are abusing it, because let us not hide it. The New Deal has created, even though with such a positive record globally, but the New Deal, as one of the challenges apart from corruption that you just said, the New Deal has also created the grounds, or has given room for some Cameroonians to engage in mischievous misdeeds, evil machinations, evil acts. And sometimes these acts are creating lots of anarchy, creating lots of conflict, creating lots of problems, and creating lots of confusion and misunderstanding. Some are engaging in tribalism, others are engaging in all kinds of forms of divisiveness and favoritism. But again, the bottom line is that in the spirit of the xenophobia and hate speech, but the bottom line is that let us be grateful we are free. And anyone who says it's not free, I think is either being partisan or doesn't want to be faithful, because that freedom is there. It's seen left and right. And
we are going to the Prof. We'll take some few minutes to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The Guardian Post reports fresh hope for the return to normalcy in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Hope ignited by the trust-building meeting of Anglophones in Toronto, Canada, as reported by the Post. And the Post weekend highlights the Toronto retreat endorsement and request for the Swiss initiative to end the conflict. The Horizon exclaims over the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations mandate to build a team to lead negotiations to solve the armed conflict. Meantime, Eden reports that verbal breaks from some actors blast the Toronto Anglophone Peace Initiative, calling it a federal ruse. On the killing of a leading non-state armed group fighter known as General Cross and Die by the Cameroonian Army, The Voice says Army General meets Amber General, Cross and Die. According to Newswatch, General Cross and Die died after crossing to the church. In the Guardian Post, Minister Paul Tasson tells the people of the Northwest region to say no to insecurity if they want the ring road. According to Cameroon Insider, the Cameroon government wants more involvement of diplomats in efforts to solve the Anglophone crisis. In the same vein, Newswatch makes public a strong outing of the British High Commissioner to Cameroon on the independence struggle in the northwest and southwest regions. The Guardian Post projects unforgettable quotable quotes on the Anglophone crisis. Amid the insecurity in the northwest region, its traditional wear, toge, is branded in the Guinness Book of Records. President Biya's close to 40-year reign is the lead story in The Voice Weekender, while the Guardian Post projects into the future with Cameroon People's Democratic Movement CPD militants in the Lekki division already crusading for the candidacy of President Paul Biya ahead of the 2025 presidential election. As reported by the reporter, Territorial Administration Minister slams impostors holding unauthorized meetings within the context of the Sinitom Bida and Bombon Joya conflict in the Cameroon Football Federation. Minister Tanganji Paul is thus qualified by the media as the regime firefighter rushing in to Bombon Joya's rescue. An Echo Outlook presents the unpleasant situation of the two major cities of the Republic of Cameroon, the political capital Yaoundé and the economic capital Douala, drowned in waste. The Star says the Canadian High Commissioner to Cameroon has launched the Media Freedom Coalition Diplomatic Network. Professor, I come back to you. According to the World Bank, it is estimated that the coronavirus health pandemic has increased the extreme poverty rate from 24.5% in 2019 to 25.3% in 2021. We're talking about the socio-economic life of Cameroonians. The poverty rate is qualified by the World Bank as extreme poverty rate. Many Cameroonians, majority, are living below the poverty line. What has been happening for the past 39 years as far as this aspect of national life is concerned?
Yes, I think that, I'm not an economist and I tried neither am I a health expert, but what I know is that the public health policy under the policy framework of the New Deal is
I'm talking about the poverty rate.
Yes.
The poverty rate, hardship, yes. And
Indeed. I think that the New Deal in its economic dimension or tenet has done what it could to make sure that the poverty rate is reduced, especially extreme poverty rate. Sure, the economy is growing at a level, as the economists tell us, around 4 or 5%. But programs have been undertaken. As you know, we had the anti-poverty programs. I think we're now on what they call a sustainable development program or something. But economic programs have been put in place to reduce extreme poverty, at least, or to raise people out of poverty generally. But of course, an economist can do this better. The economic conditions and the environment, both internationally and nationally, are such that that has been another challenge of the New Deal, the economic sector. But we have to appreciate the fact that Cameroon, as an economy, has been doing its best to maintain, to as they call it, to be resilient, to maintain resilience. And I think Cameroon has endured. Cameroon has been resilient in terms of its economic management, and lots of young people have been recruited, knowing very well that unemployment rate is affecting young people a lot. But of course, in all leadership, there is no leadership which can say it has done its best, it has done it all. No, the whole concept of leadership is not that you've done it all. There's always a new challenge. No matter how much you try, you always still have a new challenge.
It's about continuity.
It's continuity, anticipation, and keep on doing. And I think that's what matters with the New Deal spirit. Let us, in all freedom, keep on doing and working on improving the conditions of Cameroonians. And those who are misbehaving, we should find a way together in our diversity to put a stop to those who are misbehaving and behaving incorrectly, because we want a Cameroon in which there's less poverty or extreme poverty, a Cameroon in which everybody is free to contribute, and a Cameroon in which we can all say we belong and that we are happy to live in there as Cameroonians. For the pandemic is a bad thing. It is, but I think we have to be honest to say Cameroon has been lucky because of the good health policies. We have not been highly affected by the pandemic. Sure, we've lost some lives, but I think that we are among the 54 African countries. We've done relatively well, and we should thank the policymakers in the health sector. We should thank our God, because I think Cameroonians are handling it well, and I'm happy that
but the policy, the health policies which you're talking about seem not to be yielding fruits right down to the grassroots, because healthcare delivery in Cameroon today is still a serious problem. You go to many remote areas in Cameroon, maybe they have a single doctor, a single integrated health center. Even in the big major hospitals in towns like Yaoundé, Douala, and all the regional capitals are still suffering from a lack of adequate equipment,
and personnel.
Kidney failure, patients protesting here and there all the time about poor healthcare.
I know the health budget is high, so we have to be grateful that the government is conscious of what you're saying. I know that more medical schools have been created. That means we're producing more doctors and more medical personnel. And I think that while the problems are still there, which are actually problems of developing countries, what you're really saying is that we should be happy that the health budget seems to be increasing. The ministers of health, public health, seem to be very, very active everywhere trying to build on this. And I think that we should not give up. We should continue, because what you've just mentioned, those statistics you've given, are actually statistics that are available in health systems in all developing countries, generally speaking.
All right,
but we should keep on trying. We should work at it.
Mr.
We shouldn't give up.
What's your take about what has been done so far for the past 39 years to improve on the socio-economic situation of Cameroonians?
Okay, thank you very much. I was very disappointed because I expected Professor Ngole to be very precise, but he was just repeating one and the same thing, and up to now I don't even know what I have to take home. All what I hear is just freedom, freedom here, freedom there, and on the light, and I don't know if there is any freedom when people are living in chains. So what I'm trying to say is that
about the fight
we should not
about the fight against poverty,
yes.
the fight against hardship, and the struggle to improve on the socio-economic situation of Cameroon.
Let me tell you something. Cameroon is one of those few countries that if we had a leader with a vision, we should be comparing with we should be an emerging nation, because there is nothing that Cameroon lacks. We have there is nothing that Cameroon lacks, as I'm telling you, as the raw material. No, there is no. You cannot be telling me about what's called 2035.
It's an emergence vision. 2035.
That is what he said. Of course, we are a living witness. You just erase some points there. Talking about the health sector that you just raised. Let me just be very brief there before going to other areas. That's the most catastrophic sector where I think President Biya himself would have even tabled resignation, because the health sector is, as we speak, you talk about COVID-19, as we speak, there is an alarming corruption scandal hooked on the neck of so many ministers involved in the embezzlement of 180 billion. Up to date, the response from the findings, which were at the level of the Supreme Court audit, has been blocked for the Cameroonian not to know who is involved and what, because of some people who have powers and influence and have blocked it. Terrible corruption scandal, and the people here telling us how they are fighting about the round they improve on the life of Cameroonians and so on. What President Biya uses, the number of period or time limit that he has spent in power. We have leaders that have just spent the 2 mandates, maybe 4 years or 5 years. Go, the late Magufuli of Tanzania spent just the first mandate, and neither was the second mandate that unfortunately he made that demise. Look at what Magufuli has done in Tanzania within the space. This we are talking about just someone of not less than 10 years in power. Look at the airports, the road infrastructure, the bridges, and the stage. In fact, all sector go. You go to a country like Philippines. If you go there, I mean, you have people who are witnesses, and they tell you the development in that country, but that's a country that depends only on tourism as their priority, as their main source of economic income. And somebody is coming here and telling me that after 39 years, he is not even able to even outline any single success. He's just telling us like that and so forth. After seeing the first stadium, let us go to sports. The first stadium, after seeing 1972, when Cameroon hosted the last Nations Cup, no infrastructure. You will tell me that 72 to now, that is after about 50 years, that's when President Biya is able to raise a single stadium.
Not a single stadium.
I mean a single stadium that he can boast of. But I am telling you that what President Biya, we don't even have, but there's what we call a Wuri Bridge. That bridge, that is a bridge that was built in the days of Aiju. Look at what is there, the Wuri Bridge that he has just what we call that renovation. So if we want to outline the economic success, I don't call it success, the economic policies that President Biya, even the agricultural sector, there was in the days of Aijo, whom I don't even still see as someone that I can see as a role model. At least he tried relatively well. I'm talking about relatively. There was what we call the 5 years development plan. President Biya, we only have from ambition, we have realization. Realization, we have new word. Or keep on coming with words.
But today there is a development plan from 2020 to 2030.
Tomorrow we have emergency development plan. Today we have, and today we are still going back to the IMF. Cameroon is still having thousands of billions of debts that children, generations will pay. That is what I'm trying to say here is 39 years. I am shocked that Professor Mbolengole, who is a professor, he studied political science, cannot tell Cameroonians that he is able to manage this country. He is still here, coming to rain praises on someone who has taken Cameroonians 39 years backward in all sectors. Today, Cameroonians are living in abject poverty.
No, that's not possible.
They are on the desert. Youths are dying on the Mediterranean. Some of them had to go through the desert just to go and look for greener pastures. Because you cannot tell me that we are in a country where the economy of the country, or the economy of the country, or let me say the sector, or the economic sector of the country is determined by the government. They are succeeded in killing the private sector. A country cannot boom, the economy of a country cannot boom when it is the government that determines how things function. It's the government that guarantees them. No, you create an enabling environment where the economy will boom, where the private sector comes in, and you will see how everything is automatic. We are blessed. This neighboring Nigeria here, we are blessed to be surrounded by countries where, if we had that aspect of what do we produce, everything is being imported, including toothpick. What do we produce with all the potentials that we have? I am happy, Mr. Babila. Before you cut me, Mr. President Paul Biya made a speech, and that is the best speech that I've ever heard from him. That was in 2015. I don't know, between either 2015 or 2014, like that, where he himself said, "What is wrong?" I expected President Biya, because from that speech, what is wrong that we have everything and nothing is moving? I said, but look at this man. That was the simple thing for him to just resign.
That's the honest leader.
Because today they said, he said, what is wrong? I thought maybe there will be a drastic reform that will accompany that speech, but unfortunately, everything is in a status quo. Let me round up here by saying something. Yeah. There is a proverb in Africa that says, when you are into a forest and you come across one and the same tree, and you are moving and coming, just know that you are lost. One thing, when we don't expect to keep on retaining one and the same thing and be expecting different results. Today, we are in a chaotic situation where the country is at the brink of being divided.
Because of what? According to, we are the leading economy in Cameroon, in Central African sub-region. We are the leading economy.
According to the
World Bank, cannot lead.
According to the World Bank,
with Chad and Gabon and others, so you are proud. You cannot be comparing with Nigeria. You are only comparing with Gabon, Chad, and Central Africa. Those
we need to progress. According to World Bank analysis, the overall pattern is of good progress, including education and other sectors, and the efforts to reduce poverty, notably monetary poverty. That was between 1996 and 2001, which then slowed down or stopped between 2001 and 2007. And in terms of non-monetary measures of poverty, there was very little progress over the period from 1991 to 2004, and that excluding education. But the indicators, according to the World Bank, then improved between 2004 and 2011. But it, however, says that in both cases there has been progress for part of the period, but this has not been sustained for over the time. Okay. And overall progress has been disappointing, and this is in line with disappointing growth performance. This analysis of the World Bank. Professor, you're saying that globally speaking, in the socio-economic life of the country, there has been progress, but that progress seems to be disappointing and qualified as disappointing progress, which is as a result of disappointing growth performance.
Indeed, I mean, as I say, I'm not an economist. I'm simply basing myself on what I've also read, on what others say, the experts. What I know that one of the greatest challenges, or one of the challenges that we've had in the last 39 years, as far as the New Deal Cameroon, the new Cameroon is concerned, is in the economic area. But we have to be, and I think that the economic managers, with high instructions from the President of the Republic, have done everything logical, rational, to be able to show resilience and find some solutions to immediate problems such as you say, extreme poverty, unemployment, and other things, it has been difficult. But again, it's not a Cameroonian problem as such, specifically Cameroonian, but we have to appreciate those who are working in an area that I'm not specialized in. But I think from what I see, obviously something good is being done. That is why Cameroon continues to, at least within a group of 6-7 countries, Cameroon seems to be doing quite relatively well, and if not better, and is leading. Sure, should we not do better? I mean, I'm one of those who always believes that there's room for improvement, there's room for doing better, and I think that we have enough economies. We have good economies. I know of a few, and I think that the World Bank is simply calling our attention to figures that they hold, which should enable us, which should serve as food for thought in the way policies are being made and crafted. And I think that's fine. Nobody would deny that one of the major challenges that we've had in the last 39 years has been in the area of economics.
In the economic sector.
Anyone who denies that is not being honest.
We're going to take some interviews now, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the state of the nation.
It was at first that there was peace, but right now there is no more peace in this country. No peace. Everything is down. Everything is down. All over fighting, killings in the world, fighting without no problem. So I don't know. I don't really know. No good from President Paul Biya.
A greater portion of his reign have been characterized by what perfect peace in the country, which go with his motto when he took power, rigor and moralization. But the coming of the socio-political crisis that we have now is to say that the power is at a downward trend. That's why I say it is high time, if they can sit, him and his cabinet members sit to see that they are actually aging out, because age also go with reasoning.
As I'm here like this, I just see the future generation. I don't know. It seems as if when I go, I have my master's degree, I'll just turn back like my elders in the quarter. There's unemployment. President Paul Biya is the chief of armed force in Cameroon, and he needs to stop the war to the southwest and the northwest region and try to have a special dialogue. When I mean to say special dialogue, he don't need to send representative. He should carry himself as the president and go there.
The head of state's report card has a good side and a bad side. The road infrastructure is bad. You can imagine that to live from here to Womb, we pay as much as 15,000 francs, a journey or a distance of about 75 kilometers, something that we used to pay 1,500 francs, at times 2,000 francs. So it's a very difficult situation. Really, we feel left out of his policy, because in his government you hardly find the younger generation as part of his cabinet members. So
that AZO was engaged in bringing back to normalcy the situation of peace, security and order. The new SDO should continue that task. Those who are coming, those who have been sent to accompany development are under threat, are killed and assassinated. We must put an end to that situation, and the population should wake up. We are the gateway into our country by the sea, and the exit. That gateway and that exit should not become a boulevard for criminals who are carrying weapons, who are carrying ammunition, drugs and other many things to disturb our country. People were fighting to become mayors. They were ready to do everything to become MP. Today, when it is to assume the responsibility on a daily basis to help the population, they are not there. What does that mean? I give you 30 days. If they are not back, we'll bring back your report to Boya, and I will sit with the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, the Prime Minister, how in January they will still wear the sash. Today, the mayor, who usually welcome personalities like the obvious. He's not there. None of his assistants is there.
I enjoin you without delay to quickly take the temperature and the state of what is happening on the ground. To remain a positive synergy, overcome security challenges, Monday ghost towns, land and chieftaincy issues, urban disorders, to name a few.
My plan of action for my stay here, I would say it will be threefold. Service, loyalty, and peace.
Our region is going through a difficult time. The crisis has had painful economic, political, and social consequences on all of us without exception. All of us at all levels. We now must seek to obtain peace, which is absolutely necessary in this region. We must do all we can to build peace and return to normalcy in our villages, subdivisions, and 7 divisions. The return to peace concerns everybody, all of us.
You welcome back. Those were interviews of the week. Now, the state of the nation. 39 years down memory lane. Professor Elvis Ngolengole, we are talking about the political side of life and, of course, the security of the nation. We're talking about a lot of things put together in that bundle of the state of the nation today. When I look at Cameroon today with the secessionist conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, what do you think about what the head of state and his government have been doing for the past 39 years? Have they succeeded to keep the nation together?
Yes, you're talking to a political scientist, not I will not respond like I'm a militant of a party, no. You know, and an observer and an active participant that have been in the political process for the last 39 years. I tell you, globally, the president has succeeded in keeping intact and forging the unity of spirit, of purpose, of fraternity among Cameroonians as the founding fathers bequeathed to us. And in over 39 years, and given his political vision and his public policies, he has done everything to make sure that in terms of institution building, in terms of laws, that we all go the way that will not mortgage or will not endanger the unity, the fraternity of this new nation, our nation state that we call, this republic that we call Cameroon. You've just mentioned now the case which has been the most recent in the last 4 or 5 years, the case of the socio-political and eventually what we refer to as security and humanitarian crisis in 2 out of the 10 regions our republic has, which is the northwest and southwest regions. We are all from these regions, and I'm one of those who feels very touched and very concerned that this problem has been going on for 5 years and it's too long and it's too much. And to me, enough is enough. We have to all do everything because we believe that, first of all, we have a willing state led by President Biya, who says he wants this stopped and that he wants it stopped through Republican dialogue. This is his position. It has not changed, and he's following and is faithful to that. We who are also Republicans and who believe in a republic of where people are free and where we have to hold on to the unity and the fraternity as was bequeathed to us by the founding fathers, we have to be able to accompany and help and support the president to succeed in the face of this problem, because as you know, in the northwest and southwest, there are 3 major currents of opinion. There are, overall, there is a generalized feeling of marginalization, anger, frustration, and mistrust, and so forth and so on. That's normal.
And these are the things that are often highlighted to say that the President of the Republic has failed.
No, that doesn't mean he has failed. It is that people are free to express.
To keep the people together.
No, it is group people are free because 39 years ago they couldn't express this. These problems did not start 39 years ago, as you know. This problem started 60 years ago. But from up to 39 years ago, you dared not, I mean, all you have to do is talk to people like Gojidinka and they'll tell you, you dared not, up to 39 years ago, you dared not even open your mouth. It was not possible, you know this. But after 39 years, people have felt freer and freer to talk. And I think it's good that people are expressing. And I'm very glad that the head of state and the state, everybody, every one of us thinks that it is good that people have expressed themselves, their feelings and their frustrations and so forth. But the question is, how do we go about it?
How do we go about it?
There are three currents of opinion. There are those who think that the way you go about it is that we should return to a federal form of state. There are others who feel like that no, the way you go about it is to make sure that the unitary state is decentralized effectively to give autonomy to the various regions and councils. There's a third opinion which feels like the way you go about it is to succeed through an armed conflict by killing people and so forth and so on.
Right, in a short while, you will tell us how you think that we should go about it within those three options. Mr. President, 39 years have gone down memory lane, and the state of the nation today is threatened by a close to 5-year-long conflict that has killed many, displaced many, destroyed a lot of properties. What do you think about what government has been able to do so far to keep the nation together, to maintain the state of unity of the nation?
Well, that is why I still reiterate the fact that the right people to manage the country were not the right people who are there today. That is, those who were the ones to take over the management of this country are not there. The wrong people are put at the right places. It was a well carved out scheme. That it was not the aspect of the division that we have today. It was a well carved out scheme put in place by the colonial master that determines how policies of the country functions. Like what Professor earlier said, there was a willingness from those of the west of the Congo, well, let's call them Southern Cameroonians, who willingly, led by Foncha, decided to leave Nigeria and decide to join their brothers east of the Mungo or the French Cameroon that already had their own fabricated independence in January 1960. But you see that since there was already that carve-out scheme of assimilation, that the president himself, President Biya himself said it when he was in Paris, and there was a carve-out scheme of assimilation. Unfortunately, it has not been the case. It has not been that easy. So the people today who are in power are the principal cause of the aspects of where we have today. Professor Ngole just made mention of the aspect of dialogue. Dialogue. I think if there is anything that has ever taken place in resolving this crisis that we can talk of, that thing that is missing is that dialogue. There has never been a sincere dialogue. I'm happy. There is one man who is a member of the Commission of Bilingualism. They call him Mr. Agbo Macho. Those are fine brains. He came out clear and said, this issue started when he was still the governor. I think he was the governor. He has been the governor of Northwest, and has been the secretary at the presidency, of which they were mandated. They are still alive. He called the name of one Dr. Dorothy Professor Dorothy Njoma, and President Paul Biya himself, who were mandated by the then President Ahijo to carry out findings. And the solutions were already there. And Mr. Biya is aware of the solution. I'm saying that before this conflict went that way where arms started coming in. So he is shocked that Mr. Biya is aware of the solutions in handling this issue, of which they have already carried out finding, but he's seeing that nothing is being implemented in handling the crisis. So when Professor Ngole talked of that, he has given room for dialogue in a Republican manner, and people should come and stand and people should speak. That is what PAP, as the chairman of PAP, that's what we have been vying for. When the crisis started, before getting to arms groups, started people being armed, of which the government pushed the people to use arms. Today, boys are everywhere and all that. We made mention of the fact that this situation is getting towards that direction. President Biya cannot tell me that with his knowledge of managing the country's affair, was not able to see that the country was getting towards that direction. We were not able to see that this Anglophone crisis will one day lead to a situation where, because he's not a novice to tell me that he is not aware or was not aware that the Anglophone crisis is a crisis that can bring down the nation. He refused to open to dialogue. He resorted before we start talking of dialogue. There was no dialogue that was open to listening, to give a listening ear. Because when people started manifesting, let me tell you, Mr. Babila, you gave enough time to Professor Ngole when he was just disturbing and Cameroonian and not really striking where he had to strike. This problem, there was AAC 1. There was AAC 2. The 1996 Constitution.
And that was dialogue.
No. I'm coming to tell you that there was the person that has never wished, that has ever manifested bad faith in resolving this crisis or making sure that this crisis do not get to where it is today. It's the Biya regime himself. Because there was AAC 1. I can bet you that Anglophone Cameroonians have been so patient. I think that these are the most patriotic Cameroonians. What about patriotism? They are the most patriotic Cameroonians that, despite all the laughs and everything, they were still so calm, and they were, unfortunately, the unpatriotic sector, or the unpatriotic group of Cameroonians are in the regime who refuse to give a listening ear in resolving a crisis. Because after the AAC 1 and AAC 2, there was a 1996 Constitution that came to resolve that Anglophone problem. 25 years after, nothing was done to resolve it, because the 1996 Constitution says, okay, good, there will be special status. Because today it seems as if it is the Anglophone problem that has brought the special status. Special status was already there, but because of bad faith, nothing was implemented until to a point where guns started and all the like. He says, okay, now I'm implementing it. So when you start from the onset, you start manifesting bad approach in resolving something that does not even need anything. You give your opponent the concept that this man means nothing good, because from all indications, he has never manifested any good faith in resolving or open up to dialogue. And today the crisis is where we are today because he blocked any aspect of sincere and open dialogue. And that's why we are still calling on that. There is still that need, because the Grand National Dialogue was never a dialogue. It was a monologue. No, that was not a dialogue.
Let's proceed, please. Professor, why do you think that Cameroonians are seeing all the efforts of the head of state as not being sincere, and they are reading bad faith in it, as the president of the PAP just said, and they are just thinking that nothing is changing? Isn't it because the situation is persisting and worsening?
Yeah, but to say all Cameroonians don't think like Mr. Jang or the president of PAP, I think that there are Cameroonians who are honest enough and objective to know that the president has demonstrated good faith and his willingness, even goodwill even, to find a solution to this problem from the word go. It's 5 years ago. He has shown that he's not only in the organization of the major national dialogue, which was a dialogue par excellence. He had already carried out other acts, policy actions, which were aimed at not only political appeasement, but also political reform. We know this because there are facts. You cannot deny that he had released over 700-800 detainees and political prisoners. You cannot say that they have not reformed the justice system, because everybody knows that in NAM, in the Supreme Court, and so forth, there have been special recruitment. Everybody knows this. The educational system, the same. So the efforts are there, but your question is pertinent in the sense that one would think that it's all Cameroonians who think negative or who have the perception that it's not working or that it's not doing or it's not sincere. But to me, what I see, and the facts speak for themselves. Let us leave our emotions aside. Let's leave our passions aside. Let us leave our partisanship aside. Let us look at ourselves as patriots, Cameroonians. You'll come to realize that had it been a different leader, a different president, other than President Biya, we probably would not be where we are today, for both positively and negatively. But because it is him, everyone knows that the characteristics, the qualities of his leadership are moderation, ponderation, patience, discretion, openness. He listens, and he's not a dictator. He doesn't have the instinct of a dictator, and he doesn't take decisions on pressure or because someone is trying to manipulate him. Everyone knows this. It's not like I'm talking what others do not know. And so for him, he strongly, in his humanism, leadership of humanism, he believes that this problem, with the goodwill of honest people, it will find a solution. I'll give you one of the problems that we have is that, again, it could be one of the unintended consequences of the New Deal. It is that some people have decided never to believe in facts. Some people have decided always to go against the facts. Some people have decided to engage in falsehoods and lies telling and mistruths or half-truths. Some people have decided to work and provoke for anarchy to occur. For them, they think that by so doing, I guess they will get what they want. And under these circumstances,
in the opposition, they think that those people you're talking about are in government.
Well, I don't know where they are, but I'm saying that they are amongst us who are Anglophones, but they're everywhere. I'm not pointing fingers. You know that I will not even accuse opposition people necessarily. But you know that there are good opposition people, by the way. I have to tell you this. I mean, there are good opposition parties and good opposition leaders, and they're doing a good job in constructing. But we know that there are forces, social and political forces, and there are individuals who all they want is not to respect the truth, not to believe in the truth, not to promote the truth, not to defend the truth, but to tell lies, to engage in mistruths, and to provoke a social media which is irresponsible, and to provoke anarchy and disorder and chaos. Well, the point here is that because we live in a New Deal and we have a leadership that is a leadership of a leader who is a leader of ponderation, of moderation, of tolerance, and of openness. Some people think it's a weakness, but it's not a weakness. This is when you want to go far, you want to go a long journey. You have to take your time and don't feel pressured. Eventually, we shall get to where we want to get to, as long as we're honest. But as long as what I'm seeing, there is a lot of dishonesty, there is a lot of bad faith, and people seem to be conducting themselves with lots of hidden agendas. They have little interests, all kinds of interests, not just partisan interests. Some interests are occultic interests, some interests are tribal interests, some religious interests, some are regional interests, linguistic interests. All these are causing problems. But I personally believe that because there is the rule of law, because there is a leader who is still believes in his political vision and his political philosophy, because you have Cameroonians who believe in that political philosophy and they are willing to continue to fight for us to have a Cameroon in which correctness is a virtue, a Cameroon in which decency is a virtue, a Cameroon in which honesty and good faith are virtues, a Cameroon in which doing things with rigor and probity are virtues. We think that a Cameroon in which if you are incorrect, you are punished. I think that we'll get there. You talked about the problems in the northern and southwest.
And if
we will get to the promised land, I'm very convinced.
Right.
I'm one of those optimists. I'm not a pessimist.
We'll get to the promised land.
Yes.
In 2 words, what can propel us to that promised land? What can take us to that promised land?
Believe me, what can take us to that promised land here is that we have to show on the part of everyone, no matter what political party you belong to, we have to show
honesty
and good faith. That's one thing.
All right.
Secondly, what will get us there is that we have to be able to be talking frankly with each other and being face to face with each other. For example, if you take the problems in the northern and southwest, you find out that one of the problems and what is making it difficult is that amongst ourselves, those from the northern and southwest, we don't trust ourselves.
There's
not trust. There's mistrust, and we lie to each other, and we misrepresent things, and we seem to behave as if there is a new knowledge, which is like, I don't know where it's written in, it's coming from Facebook universities, or from social network universities, there's a new knowledge which is actually no knowledge.
All right,
because how can we not tell the truth to each other that in 1961 there was no sovereign independence? How can we not tell that truth to people? How can we think that secession, for you to get secession, you need to be armed and kill and kidnap people? You can have secession if that's what you believe in, and you can talk about it without you killing people. Because what happened in Quebec was a movement to succeed. What happened in Scotland is a movement to succeed, but they have not taken up arms. Why do you think that for you to succeed, you must kill people, you must kidnap people, you must gun down everybody, you must hate people? Why?
We are running to the end of this program, and I want to pick out some few things from what you just said now, Prof. You're talking about truth, honesty, good faith, frank talk, and trust.
Yes.
All right.
Trust.
President Denis Njang, where do we take off from here to reach that promised land, to reach the land of peace, stability, growth, prosperity?
Yes, I think we have emanated and has aligned a lot of proposals, declarations in line with the socio-political crisis that we are facing in the Northwest and the Southwest, that has leading to an aspect where we now have arms movements and other like. The holding of arms, Professor Ngole should not diabolize issues here, because the beginning of arms was never initiated by the boys today who are in the bushes. No, the holding of arms was initiated by the regime who wanted to use a military approach on a political situation. So it has now pushed people, because the holding of arms started emanating in 2017 and all the like. So the way forward, we should be talking now on how we can see the way forward and propose what we have to. As he said, we have to be truthful to ourselves. We have to be sincere in what we say. We can't, because one of the reasons for the crisis today is because people wanted to hide the truth. Something that is true. I mean, history needs to be implemented. There was a federation. One person should not feel that he must dominate the other. Let us be sincere. We all know what we have to do for this crisis to come to an end. But because people have bad faith, and majority of the people that have the bad faith, because the government has a yam and a knife. The separatist leader and all the like, I know the one. I'm a federalist, and I don't hide that. We have given our own solutions. It came a time that they said they don't even want to hear federation. So you can't fight an ideology with guns. You can't kill an ideology with guns. If we take examples from many countries where they wanted to use the guns, you have created example of Quebec, you have created an example in Spain and all that. Of recently, before I conclude, recently the Prime Minister of Ethiopia made such an attempt to use the guns to silence the Tigray people when they rose up to claim their own sovereignty. But today he's begging now, he's on his knees, because the thing is turning now against him. All countries that make attempts, all countries that make attempt to silence the people's ideology or to kill down an ideology. I'm not for secession. I am looking for a solution where we can now live in peace, where people could decide without being dictated upon by some people somewhere. So that's why I am still for federation, and I'll ever stand for federation.
Well, I'm a unitarist, everybody knows.
And people should be truthful. There must be sincerity. There must be sincerity, and the sincerity must come from the government. The government has never been sincere in resolving. If the government opens up today and sincere, release everyone, create a ceasefire, open a dialogue, and show some sort of good faith, I tell you today that we will not be saying anything today. We will not be talking about aspect of crisis again.
Right. I pick out two things from what you just said now: truth and sincerity. Professor stands for the unitary system, and you're for the federal system. But at the center, at the meeting point, there are all these values of truth, sincerity, honesty, and of course, good faith. Professor Elvis Ngole, political scientist, member of the Central Committee of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, coordinator of the CPDM Academy, and former member of government. Thank you for your time.
It's a great pleasure always, and you can always count on our contribution.
John Denis, entrepreneur, national president of the Popular Action Party. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. And the million of viewers who are watching, and I hope that maybe we have given our only two contributions to see how we foster the country. And once more, I want to thank Professor Lengole for at least for the edification and all what we spend as exchanges. I pray that it goes a long way to see how in our unity, in diversity, we could see how we could find a lasting solution in resolving the multiple crises that our country is plagued in.
All right, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of The Insight. Goodbye.